got me right in the eye. I know they consented to it, but still, you should have warned me that you were ticklish on the neck. Sorry about that, my lunch fought back. Yes, my bloody lunch. Stay tuned for this month's episode. It's probably healed by now. So welcome to a brand new episode of the Bloody Fang-Tastic Show. I'm your host, Lark the Vampire, and this is the show where I give you a facts review and mythology on a vampire movie. So this month's episode, of course, is going to be on the vampire horror movie comedy, Vampire in Brooklyn. Let's go with the review first, shall we? As always. So, this is directed by horror master Wes Craven and stars Eddie Murphy and Angela Bassett, Alan Payne and Kadeen Hardinson and Zeeks Moki. So this, of course, is, from the 90s, and it follows vampire Eddie Murphy, who comes to Brooklyn, New York, and basically he wants, well, a vampiric bride, playing Maximus, yes, and two other roles in the movie as well. And he comes to Brooklyn, New York to do his vampiric stuff, even find himself a new bride and stuff, and we find he gets drawn to Angela Bassett along the way in the film and slowly turns her. That is all I will tell you about the film. So what did I like about this one? Well, I loved Wes Craven's direction. You know, this is the only vampire movie that he directed. Yes, you think with him being a horror director he would have done more supernatural creatures like werewolves, zombies, ghosts, but he didn't. We'll get to that more later in the facts. So, in this, of course, Maximus, a vampire. Yes, Eddie Murphy playing him. Now, Eddie Murphy, of course, is a very multi-talented comedic actor, and we've seen time again that he can play multiple roles, like in the Nutty Professor films and Norbit. Not a brilliant one, but still, Eddie Murphy, you don't expect him to be serious in this, but part times he is serious in this film. I also liked, that this had quite a big black cast in this film. We don't see many of those as well, especially for a vampire film. But, yes, and I also liked the story and the setting with it being in Brooklyn, of course, vampire in Brooklyn. I also liked the makeup work Eddie Murphy underwent when he was going to, his demonic vampiric form. And I also thought that the comedy in this, including that undead guy, who was like a zombie. There's even one bit that I can clearly remember where his eye falls out and he steps on it, but then gets into the back of the limo at the end, and well, he, with the bad guy gone, he finds a new meaning in life. And of course we get some romance there, a good soundtrack and score too. And I also feel that this film is very underrated and underappreciated from Wes Craven, because I don't hear enough people talking about this. When you hear Wes Craven, you automatically think, Last House on the Left, or The Hills Have Eyes, or, Nightmare on Elm Street, or Scream, but, I don't hear enough people talk about this one, Vampire in Brooklyn, and it's a very hidden gem, and I think people should check it out more, and, because I truly enjoyed it. Not Wes Craven's best works, but still, a good enough horror for us all, especially if you're a vampire lover and also love Eddie Murphy comedies, and you want to see him in a different genre other than comedy. Well, like I say, this is comedy, but it's horror too. So yes, see Eddie Murphy in a horror genre styled film. I mean, he was originally offered the role of Candyman, but, you know, we all know the story behind that with Tony Todd taking the role. Anyway, yes, I think I've said all I needed to say. Angela Bassett, beautiful woman, I might say, as well in this film. So, what am I going to rate this one? I think I shall give Vampire in Brooklyn, I think I shall give it 4 fangs out of 5. 4 fangs out of 5 for Vampire in Brooklyn. So let's get to our next part of the show. Shall we go mythos first? The mythology of this film follows the basic vampire tropes: sunlight, stakes to the heart, garlic, and religious symbols. But with this one, the vampire has a physical change to when it shows its true self, as seen in the film. Other than that, Eddie Murphy plays the generic basic vampire that you see in many other vampire films. In addition to starring, Eddie Murphy also produced the film and helped in the co-writing. And as a producer, Eddie Murphy sought out Wes Craven to direct, as he was a fan of Craven's horror films. Eddie Murphy's original goal was to play the role more serious and sympathetic. However, Wes Craven and Paramount wanted a more comedic tone to the film and to Eddie Murphy's performance. According to co-screenwriter Chris Parker, Paramount even told them, "We want this movie to be funny. Eddie Murphy does not want it to be funny. It's your job to trick him into thinking it is funny," which Eddie Murphy ended up doing. According to Eddie Murphy, he also agreed to do the film in exchange for Paramount giving him the rights to The Nutty Professor, which a year later he did star in. However, it would end up being the last movie with the studio Paramount, as The Nutty Professor was distributed by Universal Pictures a year later. This would be the only vampire film that Wes Craven would direct, and 10 years later he would direct the film Cursed, which was his only werewolf film directing to his credits. This would go on to be Eddie Murphy's last film with Paramount. The film, of course, is set in Brooklyn, given its title, but Eddie Murphy was also born in Brooklyn, New York. Despite the film not being well liked or received at the box office at the time of its release, it has gone on to gain a cult following in the years since its release. Eddie Murphy wanted Jada Pinkett Smith to play Rita in the film, but she turned the role down. She would later go on to co-star, or at least be, in The Nutty Professor alongside Eddie Murphy, and also Scream 2 with director Wes Craven in the following years. Kadeen Hardison was personally picked by Eddie Murphy to play Julius, and the character of Julius is based on Ranfield from the Dracula book and movies. Vampire in Brooklyn would go on to be the 12th film directed by Wes Craven.
The film was released during the mid-1990s cycle of vampire films in the 1990s. Other vampire films that came out during that decade was Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Innocent Blood, Bram Stoker's Dracula, Interview with the Vampire Chronicles from 1994, From Dusk Till Dawn, Night, Lear, Blade, and John Carpenter's Vampires, respectively. This was Eddie Murphy's first ever comedy horror film, and he would go on to star in The Haunted Mansion in 2003, 8 years later. This film would also go on to be the second collaboration between Wes Craven and actor Zeke Moki, the first one being The Serpents and the Rainbow from 1988.
So, there you go. That's it for this month's episode. So, have you seen the film featured in this month's show? Have you learned anything you didn't know about it? Do let us know down in the comments below, and if you like this video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up and to share with your friends. I have been Lark the Vampire, and this has been an episode of the Bloody Fang-Tastic Show. So until next time, don't have nightmares.